Honey, sit down and let me tell you something. My twin sister stole my identity. She took my life. She took my company. She even took my husband. And me? I spent 8 years in prison for crimes she committed. Everyone thought I was the fraud. Everyone thought I was the criminal. But I was Eve, not her. Now that I'm free, you want to know how I took everything back with a 10-step plan and sent her to the same cell I lived in? Because, sweetheart, revenge is a dish best served cold. And I had 8 years to plan it. My name is Eve, and I'm 58 years old now. My twin sister's name is Eva. We're identical twins, honey. Completely identical. Same face, same height, same voice, even the same birthmark on our left shoulder. Growing up, people couldn't tell us apart. Our own mother had to paint our toenails different colors just to know who was who. But despite looking the same, we were completely different people. Eva was lazy, manipulative, jealous. She took things. I started my own tech consulting company when I was 30. Built it from nothing into a multi-million-dollar business over 10 years. I married a wonderful man named Daniel. He was kind, supportive, everything I'd ever wanted. I had a beautiful house, a successful career, a life I'd worked so hard to build. Eva, she bounced from job to job, relationship to relationship, always jealous of what I had, always wanting what was mine. But she was my sister, my twin. I helped her when she needed it, gave her money, gave her advice, gave her chances. I loved her. That was my biggest mistake. It started so slowly I didn't even notice it happening. Eva began spending more time at my house, said she was going through a rough breakup and needed support. I let her stay in my guest room. She started wearing my clothes. We're the same size anyway, she'd laugh. She got the same haircut as me. I finally found a style I like, she said. She even started using my perfume. Daniel thought it was sweet that we were bonding as sisters. I thought she was finally getting her life together. We were both so blind. One day, I had to fly to Seattle for an important business meeting. A potential client worth millions. Eva offered to drive me to the airport. So thoughtful, I remember thinking. We hugged goodbye at the terminal. "Good luck, sis," she said, smiling that smile that looked exactly like mine. I boarded the plane, feeling grateful to have such a supportive sister. I had no idea I'd just said goodbye to my entire life. When I landed in Seattle, my phone wasn't working. No service. Completely dead. I tried to use the airport Wi-Fi to call Daniel, but my email password wasn't working. My cloud account was locked. Strange, but I figured I'd deal with it after my meeting. The meeting went perfectly. The client signed a contract worth $3 million. I tried to call my office to share the good news, but the number just rang and rang. I finally borrowed someone's phone and called Daniel. A woman answered. Her voice sounded like mine. "Hello?" she said. "Who is this?" I asked, confused. "Where's Daniel?" "This is Eve. Who's calling?" My blood went cold. "This is Eve. I'm Eve." She laughed. "Nice try. What kind of scam is this?" And she hung up. I stood there in that Seattle airport, honey, my hands shaking. I called my office directly. My assistant answered. Hi, Sarah. It's Eve. I need you to. Eve? But you're here in the office right now. I can see you through your door. What? No, I'm in Seattle. I'm at the airport. That's not me. Ma'am, I don't know what kind of prank this is, but please don't call this number again. She hung up. I took the next flight home, my heart pounding the entire time. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. When I got to my house, I tried my key. It didn't work. The locks had been changed. I rang the doorbell. Daniel answered, took one look at me, and his face went pale. What are you doing here? He asked, blocking the doorway. What do you mean? I live here. Daniel, it's me, Eve. Then I heard her voice from inside. Honey, he's at the door. Eva appeared behind Daniel, wearing my clothes, my jewelry, my life. She looked at me with this cold smile. Oh my God. Daniel, call the police. It's my crazy sister trying to impersonate me again. Again? I screamed. Daniel, it's me. She's lying. She's pretending to be me. But Daniel looked at me with fear and confusion. Eve is right here. I don't know who you are or what you want, but you need to leave. I'm your wife. Daniel, please. Eva pulled out her phone. My phone. I'm calling the police. This woman is harassing us. The police came. I tried to explain, tried to tell them my sister had stolen my identity. But Eva had my driver's license, my credit cards, my wedding ring on her finger. She showed them photos on her phone, photos of her at my company, living my life. She'd been building evidence for weeks, honey, creating a digital trail that proved she was me. And I had nothing. My phone was dead. My wallet was in my purse, which Eva must have stolen while I slept. The police didn't believe me. How could they? I looked exactly like the woman standing next to my husband, but she had all the proof. They arrested me for harassment and attempted identity theft. Me! Arrested for trying to steal my own identity. It got worse, honey. So much worse. While I was in jail waiting for bail, Eva called the police in Seattle. She reported that I, using her identity, had defrauded the client I just signed. She provided evidence that I'd been embezzling from our company for months. Falsified documents that made it look like I'd been stealing money, manipulating accounts, running scams. She'd been planning this for so long. Every document was perfect. Every detail was covered. And because I looked exactly like her, and she now had my entire life, everyone believed I was the criminal twin trying to destroy her innocent sister. The trial was a nightmare. Eva sat in the courtroom playing the victim perfectly, crying about how her troubled twin had always been jealous of her success. Daniel testified that his wife, Eva pretending to be me, was honest and kind, and that I had always been unstable. My own employees testified that Eva was a brilliant businesswoman and that I must be the fraudster. Nobody believed me. Nobody. My lawyer tried, but what could he do? The evidence was overwhelming. Fingerprints, DNA, facial recognition, they all matched because we were identical twins. And Eva had created a paper trail that was impossible to refute. I was convicted of identity theft, fraud, and embezzlement. 8 years in prison. 8 years, honey, for crimes my sister committed. For being the victim of the most elaborate betrayal imaginable. Prison was hell, not just because of the bars and the guards and the loss of freedom, but because every single day I woke up knowing that somewhere out there My sister was living my life, sleeping in my bed with my husband, running my company, spending my money, being me. And there was nothing I could do about it. At least, not yet. The first year was the hardest, honey. I spent months in shock, unable to process what had happened to me. I'd wake up in that cold cell and think it was all a nightmare. That I'd open my eyes and be back in my king-size bed with the Egyptian cotton sheets. That Daniel would be there making coffee in the kitchen. That my biggest problem would be choosing which suit to wear to the office. But then reality would crash down like a wave. The gray walls, the metal toilet, the scratchy orange jumpsuit. This was my life now. My cellmate was a woman named Rosa, who'd been convicted of armed robbery. She was tough, street smart, and at first she thought I was just another rich woman who couldn't handle consequences. "What you in for?" she asked me the first night. "Identity theft," I said bitterly. "Except I didn't do it. My twin sister framed me." She laughed. "Yeah, everyone in here is innocent, princess." I didn't argue with her. What was the point? But after a few weeks, Rosa started to believe me. Maybe it was the way I talked about my company, the specific details I knew about tech consulting. Maybe it was the way I cried at night, not from fear, but from rage. Maybe she just recognized real injustice when she saw it. "You gonna let her get away with it?" she asked me one night. "I don't have a choice," I said. "She's out there with my entire life. I'm in here with nothing." "You got time," Rosa said. "And time is the one thing us inmates got plenty of. You can either waste it crying or use it planning." That conversation changed everything, honey. Rosa was right. I had time. 8 years, and I was going to use every single day of it. I started in the prison library. It was small, poorly stocked, but it had law books, criminal law, civil law, evidence procedure, forensic science. I read everything they had. Some of it I read 3, 4 times until I understood every word. I learned about burden of proof, about chain of custody, about reasonable doubt. I learned what had gone wrong in my trial and what I'd need to prove my innocence. The librarian, Mrs. Chen, was kind to me. She started ordering specific books I requested. "Most inmates don't read this stuff," she said. "They read fiction, try to escape mentally." "I don't want to escape mentally," I told her. "I want to escape for real, legally. And then I want justice." I befriended a woman named Jackie, who'd been a private investigator before she got caught taking bribes. She was bitter about her own mistakes, but she loved talking about investigation techniques. "Evidence is everything. Beats," she told me during our recreation time. "Doesn't matter what the truth is, only matters what you can prove." She taught me about surveillance, about documentation, about building a case that would hold up in court. "Your sister made mistakes," Jackie said. "Everyone does. You just gotta find them." "How do I find them from in here?" "You can't. Not yet. But you can prepare. When you get out, you'll have one shot at this. You better know exactly what to do." So I learned. I took notes. I memorized techniques. Jackie taught me how to tail someone without being noticed, how to document evidence properly, how to build a timeline, how to find the holes in someone's story. Another inmate, Linda, had been a forensic accountant. She'd been convicted of helping her boyfriend hide money from the IRS. She taught me about financial fraud, about paper trails, about following the money. Your sister is running your company? She asked me. Yeah. Then she's making mistakes. Guarantee. No one can pretend to be a CEO without the real knowledge. The numbers won't add up. Linda showed me what to look for. Unusual transactions, unexplained expenses, changes in business patterns. When you get out, she said, get access to those records somehow. The truth will be in the numbers. I also stayed in shape, honey. Every day I worked out in that prison yard. Push-ups, sit-ups, running laps around the concrete. Some of the other inmates thought I was crazy. Why you working so hard? They'd ask. You ain't got nobody to look good for. I'm not doing it to look good, I'd tell them. I'm doing it to stay strong. When I get out of here, I'm going to need every ounce of strength I have, because I knew that what I was planning would be hard. Physically hard, mentally hard, emotionally devastating. I needed to be ready for it. I wrote letters to lawyers, trying to get someone to reopen my case. Dozens of letters. Maybe hundreds over those 8 years. Most never. The ones who did said the same thing. Without new evidence, there was nothing they could do. The conviction was solid. The evidence against me was overwhelming. I'd need a miracle to overturn it. Or I'd need to create my own miracle. I also kept journals, honey. Pages and pages of memories about my life with Daniel. Details that only I would know. Our first date, where he spilled wine on my dress and was mortified. The weekend we spent in the mountains where he proposed. The silly inside jokes we had that no one else would understand. His fears, his dreams, his secrets that he'd shared only with me. I wrote it all down because I knew that someday I'd need to prove I was really me. And memories would be my evidence. There were dark days too, days when I almost gave up, days when I wondered if it was even worth fighting. Eva had won. She had everything. I had nothing. Maybe I should just accept it, serve my time, start over somewhere else with a new identity. But then I'd think about her sleeping in my bed, wearing my wedding ring, making decisions about my company, living the life I'd built with my own hands, my own mind, my own sweat. And the rage would come back, hot and clarifying. No, I wouldn't let her win. I wouldn't let her destroy me. I would take back what was mine. But I didn't waste those 8 years feeling sorry for myself. No, honey, I used that time. I studied law in the prison library. Every book they had. I learned about forensics, evidence connection, investigation techniques. I planned. Every single day I planned. I made lists. I drew diagrams. I created a 10-step plan to take back everything she'd stolen. I befriended a woman in prison who used to be a private investigator. She taught me everything. Another woman had been a forensic accountant. She showed me how to track financial fraud. I turned that prison into my university and revenge into my major. I also stayed in shape, worked out every day, kept my mind sharp, because I knew when I got out I'd need to be strong, mentally and physically. Ava thought 8 years would break me. She thought I'd come out defeated, destroyed, too weak to fight back. She had no idea she was creating her own worst nightmare. The day I was released, I walked out of that prison with nothing but the clothes on my back and a plan. I had no money, no identification. Ava had made sure of that. But I had something more valuable: knowledge and determination. I went to a women's shelter first, got myself stable. Then I started executing my plan. Step 1. Get proof I still existed. I went to the hospital where we were born, got copies of our birth certificates, our footprints, our birth records. I found our childhood dentist and got copies of our dental records. Identical twins have identical DNA, but not identical dental work. Ava had a cavity filled when she was 12. I didn't. Step 2. Build a new identity temporarily. I got a new social security card using my birth certificate. Started the process of proving I was Eve, not a fraud. It took months of paperwork, but slowly I rebuilt my legal existence. Step 3. Watch her. I spent weeks following Eva from a distance, learning her routine. She was living in my house, running my company, sleeping next to Daniel. She'd gained a little weight, cut her hair shorter. She was living well on my money. Step 4. Find the cracks. Nobody can maintain a perfect lie forever. I watched and waited for her mistakes, and she was making them. She didn't understand my business. Clients were leaving because she couldn't deliver what I used to. She was drinking heavily. I could see it in her face even from a distance. And Daniel? Daniel looked miserable. There were cracks in their facade. I followed her for 3 weeks straight, honey. Watched her stumble out of bars at midnight on weeknights. Saw her snap at employees in the parking lot. Noticed how she'd aged badly, stress and alcohol etching lines into our identical face. The company was struggling. I could tell from the outside. The parking lot that used to be full was now half empty. The sign that used to gleam was now dirty and faded. Eva didn't have my work ethic, my vision, my understanding of the business. She was running my life, but she was running it into the ground. I also noticed something else. She'd gained weight. Not much, but enough that we no longer looked completely identical. Her face was puffier, her body softer. 8 years of stress and drinking had taken their toll. While I'd spent those years getting stronger, she'd spent them getting weaker. That would matter later. I watched Daniel too, and it broke my heart. He looked so tired, so sad, so much older than he should. He left for work early and came home late, like he was avoiding his own house. I saw him sitting in his car in the driveway sometimes, just sitting there for 20 minutes before going inside. Whatever Eva had promised him, whatever life she'd sold him on, it clearly wasn't delivering. He was trapped in a lie, and he didn't even know it. I documented everything with my private investigator. Photos of Eva drinking, timestamps of her erratic behavior, interviews with former employees who'd quit because Eve had changed so much, records of business deals gone wrong, contracts mishandled. We built a file, inches thick, of evidence that something was very wrong. Step 5. Contact the people she'd wronged. Eva had made enemies pretending to be me, clients she'd scammed, employees she'd mistreated. I found them, talked to them, started building a case. A client named Margaret had lost $50,000 on a project Eva had botched. I don't know what happened to Eve, Margaret told me when I approached her. She used to be so professional, so competent. Now she's unreliable and honestly, kind of mean. I didn't reveal who I was yet, just took notes. Let her vent. I've known Eve for 12 years, Margaret continued, and I'm telling you, something changed about 8 years ago. It's like she became a different person overnight. What if I told you, I said carefully, that she did become a different person? What if the Eve you knew 8 years ago isn't the same woman you're dealing with now? Margaret looked at me strangely. What do you mean? I'll explain everything soon, but I need your help. Would you be willing to testify about the changes you noticed? She agreed. So did 5 other clients and former employees. People who'd known me before, who'd noticed the change, who'd wondered what happened to the Eve they used to know. Step 6. Gather evidence. I hired a private investigator with money I borrowed. We documented everything. Photos of Eva's drinking, evidence of her mismanagement of my company, records of financial discrepancies. Slowly, we built a file of proof that something was wrong. But I needed more than proof that Eva was a bad CEO. I needed proof that she wasn't me. That's where the forensics came in. I went back to that hospital where we were born, got our birth records, our footprints from when we were babies, found our pediatrician, and got our complete medical histories. Eva had broken her left arm when she was 9. I never had. X-rays don't lie, honey. I got copies of those X-rays. I also tracked down our elementary school and got our academic records. Eva had been held back in 3rd grade. I'd skipped 5th grade. 2 different educational paths. 2 different transcripts. More proof that we were 2 different people, even if we looked the same. I found our old dentist, Dr. Morrison. He was retired, but still had our records. Dental records, he told me, are like fingerprints. Everyone's unique. Eva had 3 cavities filled as a child. I'd had none. She'd had her wisdom teeth. I still had mine. Different dental work meant different people. Dr. Morrison gave me copies of everything. Step 7. Approach Daniel. This was the hardest part, honey. The most terrifying part. Because what if he didn't believe me? What if 8 years had made him forget who I really was? What if he chose her over me? I waited until Eva was traveling for business. My PI had intercepted her itinerary. She was going to New York for 3 days. That gave me a small window. I stood outside my own house. The house I'd bought. The house I'd decorated. The house that should have been mine. And my hands were shaking. I'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my head. But now that it was here, I was terrified. I rang the doorbell. Daniel answered. He looked older, tired, his hair now gray at the temples. When he saw me, he went pale. For a moment, we just stared at each other. "Please don't call the police," I said quickly, my voice shaking. "Just give me 5 minutes. If you still don't believe me after that, I'll leave forever and you'll never see me again." He hesitated. I could see the war in his eyes. Fear, confusion, and maybe, just maybe, a flicker of hope. 5 minutes, he said finally, stepping aside. I walked into my own house for the first time in 8 years. Everything was different. The furniture, the paint, the decorations. Eva had erased me from my own home. We sat in the living room, and Daniel wouldn't look directly at me. "I know this is crazy," I started. "I know you think I'm her, the criminal twin, the fraudster. But Daniel, I'm not. I'm Eve. I'm your wife, and Eva stole my life. I've heard this story before, he said quietly. 8 years ago, you tried the same thing. You showed up claiming to be Eve, and we proved you were lying. You proved Eva had better documentation, I corrected, because she'd been planning it for months. But Daniel, I can prove who I am. I can tell you things only Eve would know. Eva knows everything too. You're twins. Not everything, I said. And then I told him things, honey. Private things, intimate things. Things Eva couldn't possibly know. The night he proposed on that mountain overlook, and how he'd been so nervous he dropped the ring twice. How he'd cried and said, I'm sorry, and I'd laughed and said, just ask me already. The nickname he called me in private, Evie Bird. Because he said I was always flying high with my ambitions. Eva would never know that. I'd never told her. The scar on his inner thigh from a childhood bike accident he was embarrassed about. The nightmare he had sometimes about drowning, and how I'd hold him and sing to him until he calmed down. The silly dance we did in the kitchen when his favorite song came on the radio. The way he proposed, we try for a baby, right before Eva stole my life. We'd been planning to start trying that year. With each memory, I saw Daniel's face change. Confusion, recognition, pain. Stop, he finally said, his voice breaking. Just stop. He put his head in his hands. She doesn't know these things, he whispered. She doesn't know any of these things. I tried to talk to her about them, about our memories, and she'd just change the subject or get angry. Because she's not me, Daniel. She's Eva. He looked up at me, and there were tears in his eyes. Where's your wedding ring? I asked softly. She lost it. She said she lost it 2 years ago. She didn't lose it. She never had it. I pulled out my ring, the one I'd hidden for 8 years, smuggled out of prison in my shoe when I was released. I handed it to him. He turned it over, read the inscription inside. Forever, D and E. He pulled off the ring Eva had been wearing. It was similar, but when he looked inside, there was no inscription. Daniel started crying then, really crying. Oh my God, Eve, what did she do to us? I moved to comfort him, but he pulled away. I need time, he said. I need to think. I can't process this. I understand, but Daniel, I need your help. I need to prove who I am to everyone else. Will you help me? He looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Step 8. Bring in the experts. I convinced Daniel to request a private meeting. Just him, me, and Eva, with forensic experts present. I told him to suggest a new family photo and insist we all get fingerprinted for a special frame. Eva agreed, thinking she was safe. But the experts compared our prints carefully against old records. And there it was. Tiny differences in our fingerprints. Everyone's prints are unique, even identical twins. The truth started to unravel. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel helped me set the trap. He contacted a forensic specialist he knew through work. Dr. Patricia Chen was a forensic anthropologist who specialized in identification. Identical twins are tricky. She told us in our first meeting. But they're not impossible to tell apart. There are always differences. She explained that fingerprints, while similar, are never exactly the same in identical twins. Environmental factors in the womb create subtle differences. I'll need baseline comparisons, she said. Do you have any fingerprints on file from before the switch? I did, from when I'd gotten my business license renewed 10 years ago. We also had Eva's prints from a volunteer background check she'd done years before. Dr. Chen compared them carefully with Eva's current prints, the ones she was using as Eve. "These don't match," Dr. Chen said, pointing to specific points on the prints. "These are the fingerprints of two different people." She also examined our dental records, our medical histories, the x-rays. "This woman has had 3 cavities filled," she said, pointing to Eva's dental x-rays. "This woman has had none. These are definitely 2 different people." The evidence was mounting, honey. But we needed more. We needed Eva to confess. Daniel also helped me access the company's financial records. He was on the board, so he had legitimate access. We brought in Linda, my forensic accountant friend from prison, who'd since been released. She pored over the numbers for days. "This is bad," she said finally. "Really bad. Whoever's running this company has no idea what they're doing." She showed me discrepancies everywhere. Money being moved to suspicious accounts, contracts being mishandled, revenue dropping year after year. "This isn't just mismanagement," Linda said. "This is fraud. She's been siphoning money from the company into personal accounts." Eva had been stealing from my own company. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so devastating. Step 9. Get her to confess. We set a trap. Daniel confronted her, with me hidden nearby, recording everything. He told her he knew the truth. At first, she denied it, but when he presented the evidence, she broke down. And honey, she confessed everything. How she'd been jealous her whole life. How she'd planned it for months. How she'd stolen my passwords, my documents, my life. How she'd framed me for crimes she committed. How she'd convinced everyone I was the criminal. All of it recorded. The confrontation happened in our living room on a Tuesday evening. Eva had just gotten back from another business trip. She looked tired. Drunk, probably. Her hair was a mess. Daniel and I had set up hidden cameras and recording devices everywhere. I was in the next room, watching on a laptop, my heart pounding. "We need to talk," Daniel said to Eva. "Can it wait? I'm exhausted." "No, it can't wait. Sit down." Something in his voice made her stop, made her look at him carefully. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I know, Eva." She froze. "What?" "I know you're not Eve. I know you're her twin sister. I know you've been lying to me for 8 years. Eva's face went through so many emotions, honey. Shock, fear, anger, then calculation. "Daniel, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Eve, your wife." "No, you're not, and I can prove it." He laid out the evidence, the fingerprints, the dental records, the medical histories, the wedding ring. With each piece of evidence, I watched Eva's composure crumble. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. "This is fake. Someone's trying to frame me." "Stop lying," Daniel said, and his voice was so cold. "Just stop. I've been living with you for 8 years, and I've always known something was wrong. I just couldn't figure out what. But now I know. You're not her. You're not my wife." Eva started crying then. Calculated tears, manipulative tears. "Daniel, please. I can explain. It's not what you think." "Then explain. Explain how you're not Eva. Explain how you didn't steal your sister's identity and send her to prison for 8 years. And then, honey, she cracked. Maybe it was the 8 years of maintaining the lie. Maybe it was the drinking and the stress. Maybe it was finally being caught and knowing there was no way out. But she confessed. "Fine," she screamed. "Fine, yes, I'm Eva. I'm her twin sister, and you know what? I deserved this life more than she did." Daniel just stared at her, horrified. "She always had everything," Eva continued, her voice getting louder, more unhinged. "The perfect career, the perfect husband, the perfect life. And what did I have? Nothing. I was the failure twin, the screw-up, the one who couldn't do anything right." "So you decided to steal her life?" "I decided to take what should have been mine. We're identical. We should have identical lives. It wasn't fair that she got everything and I got nothing." "And Eve? What about your sister? You sent her to prison." "She would have survived. She's strong. She's always been the strong one." Eva was fully unhinged now, pacing, gesturing wildly. "I planned it so carefully. Months of planning. I studied her, learned her passwords, copied her life. And it worked. Everyone believed I was her. Even you believed it. Because I trusted my wife. Because I never thought she could be replaced. Well, she was. And I was better at being Eve than she ever was. You ran her company into the ground. Because the company was stupid. Tech consulting is boring. I tried to make it better, make it more exciting. You committed fraud. You stole from the company. You destroyed everything she built." Eva laughed, a bitter, crazy laugh. "So what? It's not like she can do anything about it. She's rotting in prison where she belongs. And I'm free. I won." Daniel's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "You didn't win, Eva." "What?" "Eve is out of prison. She's been out for 3 months. Her conviction was overturned when new evidence came to light." Eva's face went white. "That's impossible. And she's been gathering evidence against you this whole time. The fingerprints, the dental records, the financial fraud, everything." No, you're lying." "And she's been recording this entire conversation. I stepped out from the other room then, honey. Showed myself. Eva's face when she saw me, I'll never forget it. Pure terror. 'Hello, Eva,' I said calmly. 'Miss me?' She tried to run, actually tried to bolt for the door. But Daniel blocked her way, and I'd already called the police. They arrived within 5 minutes. Step 10, justice. I took the recording, the evidence, the dental records, the fingerprint analysis, everything to the police. This time, they listened. They investigated. They compared stories. They found the truth. Eva was arrested within 48 hours. She was charged with identity theft, fraud, false imprisonment, perjury, and more. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. She got 12 years in prison. 4 years more than I'd served for her crimes. My conviction was overturned. My record was cleared. The trial was actually surprisingly quick, honey. With Eva's recorded confession and all the forensic evidence, there wasn't much to argue about. Her lawyer tried to claim diminished capacity, mental illness, but it didn't work. The prosecution showed that she'd planned this for months. This wasn't a moment of insanity. This was calculated, premeditated identity theft. Eva sat in that courtroom, looking nothing like me anymore. Prison jumpsuit, no makeup, hair pulled back, defeated. I sat in the gallery watching her, and I felt empty. Not vindicated, not satisfied, just empty. This was my sister, my twin. We'd shared a womb. and she'd destroyed both our lives because of jealousy. When the judge read the sentence, 12 years, Eva looked at me. Our eyes met across that courtroom, and I saw it finally. Real remorse, real understanding of what she'd done. Too late, of course. Far too late. But at least she finally understood. She mouthed something to me. I think it was, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond, just watched as they led her away. I got my company back, though it took time to rebuild it. The business was in shambles. Half the clients had left. The employees were confused and scared. I had to hold a company-wide meeting to explain what had happened. That their CEO for the past 8 years had actually been my twin sister impersonating me. That I'd been in prison falsely convicted. That I was the real Eve and I was back. Some employees quit immediately. Too weird, too crazy, too much drama. But others stayed. The ones who remembered me from before. The ones who'd noticed the change and had always wondered. It took 2 years, honey. But I rebuilt that company, made it stronger than it had been before. I worked 16-hour days, reconnected with old clients, earned back trust. I got my company back, though it took time, T. I got my house back. I even got my reputation back, slowly. Daniel and I, we tried, but too much had been broken. 8 years of lies had poisoned what we had. We divorced amicably. He'd been a victim too, in his own way. The house felt empty with just me in it. All those rooms that used to be filled with love and laughter, now just echoing with memories. Daniel and I tried couples therapy, tried to rebuild what we had. But honey, 8 years is a long time. He'd lived with Eva, thinking she was me. He'd shared his life with her. And even though he intellectually knew she wasn't me, emotionally, those memories were tangled up. When I look at you, he told me one night, I see her too. And I hate her. And I'm so sorry, Eve, but I can't separate the two of you in my mind anymore. I understood. It hurt, but I understood. We'd both been victims of Eva's cruelty. We divorced amicably after a year of trying. He remarried 3 years later to a kind woman named Sarah. I was invited to the wedding. I didn't go. Too painful. But I sent a nice gift and a card wishing him happiness. He deserved happiness after everything Eva put him through. The house was too big for just me, too full of ghosts. So I sold it. Bought a modern condo downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and city views. Started fresh. New furniture. New decorations, a new life in a new space. I got a dog, a rescue named Justice. Seemed appropriate. She's a German Shepherd mix, fiercely loyal, and she sleeps at the foot of my bed every night. After 8 years of sleeping in a cell, having that warm, loyal presence is comforting. I rebuilt my social life too, though that was harder. Some friends had believed Eva's lies about me. They'd thought I was the criminal twin all along. When the truth came out, some apologized. Some were too embarrassed. Some couldn't get past the weirdness of it all. I lost about half my friend group. But the ones who stayed? The people who believed in me, or at least believed in the possibility of my innocence. My best friend Rachel never gave up on me. She'd visited me in prison every month for 8 years, even when I told her not to bother. You're either the most dedicated criminal I've ever met, or you're telling the truth, she'd said. Either way, you're my friend. When the truth came out, she just hugged me and said, I knew it. I always knew. Now I'm 58, running my company again, stronger than before. The business is thriving. We've expanded into AI consulting, staying ahead of the curve. I've hired back some of my old employees and brought in new talent. Last year, we had our most profitable year ever. Eva tried to destroy what I built, but she only made me more determined. Eva is in prison, living in a cell, just like the one I lived in. And every night, I sleep soundly, knowing that the truth finally won. I don't visit her. I don't write to her. I have nothing to say to her. Some people think I should forgive her, that she's my sister, my twin, my family. But honey, family doesn't do what she did to me. Family doesn't steal 8 years of your life. Family doesn't frame you for crimes you didn't commit. Family doesn't steal your husband, your company, your identity. So no, I haven't forgiven her. Maybe someday I will. Maybe not. But I don't carry anger for her anymore either. I'm just indifferent. She made her choices. Now she lives with the consequences. I did receive one letter from her, about a year into her sentence. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity got the better of me. It was pages long, rambling, full of excuses and explanations. How she'd always felt inadequate compared to me. How our parents had always favored me. How she'd convinced herself that she deserved my loath because we were identical and therefore should have identical opportunities. It was delusional, honey, completely delusional. But it also made me sad. What a waste. What a tragic, pointless waste. We could have had a relationship. She could have built her own life, her own success. Instead, she destroyed both our lives out of jealousy. At the end of the letter, she wrote, I'm sorry doesn't cover it. I know that. I destroyed you. I destroyed us. I destroyed any chance of redemption. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did now. I understand that I didn't just steal your life. I stole 8 years of both our lives. You lost 8 years in prison. I lost 8 years living a lie. And now I'll lose 12 more paying for it. We both lost. Nobody won. She was right about that. Nobody won. But at least justice was served. It took 8 years of my life, 8 years of planning, 8 years of patience. But I got everything back. Not because I was lucky, but because I refused to give up. Because I turned my anger into strategy. Because I knew that the truth, no matter how buried, eventually finds the light. People ask me sometimes how I survived those 8 years in prison, how I didn't break, how I didn't give up. And I tell them the truth. I survived by planning, by focusing on the future instead of the present, by believing that one day I'd get my life back. Every day in that cell, I had a choice. I could give up, accept my fate, become the broken victim Eva wanted me to be. Or I could fight, plan, prepare for the day I'd be free. I chose to fight. And that choice made all the difference. I also tell them that revenge isn't really sweet. It's not satisfying in the way you think it'll be. Watching Eva get sentenced didn't make me happy. Getting my company back didn't erase the 8 years I lost. Reclaiming my identity didn't undo the trauma. Revenge is just closure. It's the period at the end of a sentence. It's knowing that the story has an ending, and that ending includes justice. But it doesn't heal the wounds. It doesn't bring back. I'm different now, honey. Changed. 8 years in prison changes a person. I'm harder, more suspicious, less trusting. I don't let people in easily anymore. I don't share my passwords or my personal information. I don't assume family means loyalty. I protect myself in ways I never had to before. Some would say Eva made me bitter. I prefer to think she made me wiser. But I'm also stronger. I survived something that would have destroyed most people. I fought back when everything was stacked against me. I reclaimed my life through sheer determination and careful planning. That's not weakness. That's strength. I'm proud of who I've become, honey. Not proud of what happened to me, but proud of how I responded to it. Proud that I didn't give up. Proud that I fought for myself when no one else would. Proud that I turned 8 years of injustice into a comeback story. And now I use my story to help others. I volunteer with the Innocence Project, helping wrongly convicted people fight for their freedom. I speak at events about identity theft and fraud. I mentor young women in business, teaching them to protect themselves and their assets. I turned my pain into purpose. And that, honey, feels better than any revenge ever could. Eva will get out of prison eventually. In 12 years, she'll be free. I wonder sometimes what she'll do with her freedom. If she'll have learned anything. If she'll finally build her own life instead of trying to steal someone else's. I hope so, for her sake. Because living a lie is its own kind of prison. And she lived that lie for 8 years before ending up in a real prison for 12 more. 20 years of her life wasted on jealousy and fraud. What a tragic waste. As for me, I'm living my truth now, authentically, honestly, as myself. No one can take that from me again. I've learned to protect it, to value it, to fight for it. And I sleep well at night, knowing that I am That's freedom, honey. Real freedom. Not just being out of prison, but being free in your own skin. Being free to be yourself without fear or lies or theft. That's the freedom Eva will never have. And that's the victory I carry with me every single day. Eve's wisdom. Honey, if someone steals your life, don't let them steal your spirit too. I learned that revenge isn't about anger. It's about patience. 8 years taught me that truth is more powerful than any lie. But only if you're strong enough to fight for it. Never underestimate yourself, even when the whole world does. And remember, identical faces don't mean identical souls. The person staring back from the mirror might look like you, but only you know who you really are inside. Time can be a prison or a classroom. Choose to learn from it, plan with it, and use it to build yourself into someone stronger than you were before. Justice delayed isn't always justice denied. Sometimes it's justice perfectly timed.